When children are small, they need love and protection. And while riding in a car, van, or truck, they need special love and protection. Years ago, parents thought that holding their child when going for a ride was a good way to provide that extra love and protection, beginning with that first ride home from the hospital. But if something happened, like a crash, we now know that this was a prescription for disaster. The forces of a crash cause a light little infant's weight to multiply more than 20 times. No matter how hard you try, it is impossible to hang on to a baby during a crash like this. Even at moderate speeds, crashes are so sudden and powerful that infants and young children can be injured or even killed. Children need to be properly restrained. Tragically, thousands of children are injured or killed every year in vehicle crashes because many American parents don't use or don't properly use child restraints. Separate child restraints must be used because young children are too small to use an adult safety belt. Until they're big enough, they must use a child restraint appropriate for their size. Over the next few minutes, you'll find out how you can use a child restraint and safety belts to help protect your most precious cargo, the children who ride with you. Choosing the right restraint might seem like an overwhelming task, but it's a lot easier than you think. While they come in many different colors with lots of different features, in fact, there are really only 4 basic types of child restraints: the infant car bed, the rear-facing infant seat, the forward-facing child seat, and the booster seat. The convertible child restraint can either serve as a rear-facing infant seat or a forward-facing child seat. The 4 basic types of restraints match your child's growth patterns. At first, a child needs a restraint designed to be used for babies or infants. There are 2 major kinds of restraints made for babies: an infant-only seat and a convertible seat that can be used for a longer period of time. Restraints designed for infants are used because a newborn infant needs complete support, including support for the head and the neck. That's why an infant must ride in a rear-facing seat that is designed to cradle a baby comfortably in a semi-reclined position. An infant's neck is weak and its head weighs so much compared with the rest of its body that it could be injured in a crash if it is riding facing forward. That's why an infant must always ride facing the rear. In a crash, a properly secured restraint moves like this. The baby settles into the restraint, so the crash forces can be distributed across the strongest part of the tiny body, the back and the shoulders. All child restraints today, except those that are built in, use the safety belt system in the vehicle to secure the restraint. The restraint's own harness system secures the child within the restraint. Whichever kind of restraint you choose, it is very important to keep your child snug and secure. Dress your baby in clothes that keep the legs free. Any restraint must be secured in the proper place in the vehicle. Rear-facing infant seats must never be secured in front of an airbag. In a vehicle having a rear seat, secure an infant restraint in the rear seat to avoid the force of a deploying airbag. A rear-facing infant seat, if placed in front of an airbag, cannot safely absorb the tremendous impact of the bag when it inflates. While airbags have saved many lives, especially when combined with wearing a safety belt, you must never put a rear-facing infant seat in front of a passenger side airbag. Babies have died as a result of this. Clearly, the best place for an infant is in a rear-facing restraint in the vehicle's rear seat. Some vehicles, like pickup trucks, with no rear seat have an airbag switch that lets you turn off the airbag. When an infant restraint is secured there, you must use the switch to turn the airbag off. For some premature babies, a doctor may suggest using an infant car bed so the baby can lie flat for a few weeks or months. Around the time of a child's first birthday, it might typically reach around 20 pounds and be too large for an infant-only seat. If you have a convertible child restraint, you should now convert it to forward-facing. If you don't have a convertible seat, it's now time to get a forward-facing child seat. If your child rides regularly in more than one vehicle, make sure that each one has a properly secured child restraint. It makes sense to leave them both installed because each time a portable child seat is moved, it must be carefully secured to make sure it is done properly. Another choice to consider is a built-in child restraint. They are available in a number of different vehicle models. Even when children ride facing forward, keep them in a rear seat. Accident statistics show that children are safer if they are restrained in a rear seat rather than in the front. Between the ages of 1 and 2, children become toddlers. Now they are walking and starting to explore the world from a different perspective. But as the child grows, parents may begin to encounter some resistance to using the child restraint. A child who has been allowed to ride unprotected, even once, is more likely to resist being properly restrained the next time. Parents need to be clear about the rules. Show that you are serious that using a child restraint is not up for negotiation. The best chance for teaching acceptable behavior is to model it for your child. Not only should you wear a safety belt for your own sake, but also to set a good example. Children can begin to outgrow a toddler restraint at about age 4, when they reach about 40 pounds. But they may not be big enough for an adult safety belt to fit correctly. At this point, you can use a booster seat so the adult belts fit the child comfortably and safely. A booster seat also can help a child to see out the window. Children grow rapidly. They are constantly gaining new skills and the world is opening up to them. In time, children outgrow booster seats. Now, make sure adult safety belts are fitted properly. Safety belts should be worn low and snug on the hips, just touching the thighs. In a crash, this applies force to the strong pelvic bones and makes it less likely that a person would slide under the lap belt. Always make sure the safety belts fit properly. Low and snug on the hips, away from the face, and snug across the chest. Before you know it, the one-time infant, toddler, and preschooler is becoming a young man or woman.
Okay, now we gotta go.
While many things have changed, a rear seat is still the safer place for a young person to ride. No matter where someone sits, you must insist that they wear their safety belts. The consequences of not wearing a belt are potentially deadly. The airbag alone can cause severe injury or death, especially to an unbelted child like this. If they are leaning forward, even properly belted children can be hurt if the airbag deploys. So the best rule is to have your children in the back seat properly restrained. Of course, everyone else in the vehicle should wear their safety belts properly. Not buckling up can be devastating. Many young people are killed or injured each year simply because they were not properly secured in a vehicle. That's why when your children's friends ride along, it's necessary to make sure they are all buckled up properly, each with their own safety belt. You may have to explain to other caregivers how you feel about transporting your children. You may have to show them how the child restraints work and be clear that you demand that they be used. You might have to remind them that they too should buckle up. They also need to set an example for the children. But many children are way ahead of the adults. Safety belts work for everyone, including pregnant women. The best way to protect the fetus is to protect the mother. The lap portion should be worn as low as possible, below the rounding throughout the pregnancy. Like all other occupants, pregnant women are more likely to be injured if they don't wear safety belts. We all must take a moment to learn how to use the technology we have to help us. Child restraints can greatly reduce the chance of serious injury or death in a collision. However, the effectiveness of any child restraint is reduced considerably if it is not used correctly every time. There are a few more things you'll want to remember. Before you buy, make sure there is a label saying that it meets federal motor vehicle safety standards. As quickly as you can, try the restraint out to see whether or not it will fit properly in your vehicle. There are some restraints in some vehicles that are not compatible. To install and use a child restraint in your vehicle, carefully read both the manufacturer's instructions and the vehicle owner's manual. If you have any questions or need some help, information about child restraints is readily available. Many vehicle manufacturers have toll-free telephone numbers that can be called to get information about a specific vehicle and how child restraints can be secured in it. Child restraint manufacturers also are helpful and can be called with questions about a particular restraint and how to use it properly. While no one wants to imagine that a happy child could end up as a victim of a fatal or serious car crash, it can happen, even close to home. In fact, 75% of all crashes occur within 25 miles of home. Don't let a routine trip turn your child into a statistic. Make sure all children are properly secured. It is clear that everyone who transports children needs to learn how to do it properly. If parents and other caregivers take these few simple steps, the lives of several hundred U.S. children will be spared and thousands of others will avoid serious injury every year.
You know I care so much for all you are. You're my life, my love, you're my shining star. The road is long, but I will always be doing the right thing by you, lovingly.
Do your part. Protect your precious cargo, the children who ride with you.
I'll share your dreams and hopes with all my heart. I'll be here when you need me right from the start.